Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Diaries with me, Phiona Mbowa, here at Church of Uganda Family TV every Wednesday, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., where we talk about marriage, everything and anything to do with marriage. So today we are going to talk about one of the things that I feel are very crucial as we handle our marriages on a daily basis. And this is financial planning in marriage. And we're going to discuss how important is it to us as marrieds, how should we even plan for our money, whose money, my money, his money, our money, whatever it takes. And today we are joined by a very beautiful lady here to take us through financial planning. Maria Kyoyagala, who's been married for 13 years come October this year. You're welcome, Maria.
Thank you very much.
And because of the topic we're going to talk about, I'm going to ask you to just briefly tell us about yourself and what qualifies you to talk about this topic.
Thank you very much, Fiona. I am honored and humbled to be here.
My name is Maria Nantume Kyoyagala. I am a certified public accountant. I am also a member of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants in the UK.
Okay.
I also have a master's, an MBA, which is a Master of Business degree, acquired from Heriot-Watt University.
Okay.
I am married to one amazing man, Isaac Kyoyagala, for the last 13 years, and it's been an amazing journey walking this life with him.
Whatever I'm going to say is not necessarily what qualifies me to sit here, but it is my passion for financial planning and my passion for personal financial management that I feel would be the thing that qualifies me actually to sit here.
Thank you very much, Maria. So, if we go straight to the topic, financial planning. Is this something that you think is important for marriages or for us as couples to actually sit down and plan our money, or it should be something that should be left for the qualified accountants?
Interesting thing to say. I have come to believe that money matters matter in a home, and therefore it is important to talk about finances and money matters. I believe that all families should be able to actually sit down and plan for their resources, not just money, but all their resources. So I believe that it is very, very important that families talk about their finances, and by talking about these, plan for the resources as well. What does financial planning really entail and mean? Financial planning means we should be able to budget for our money, budget for our income. And today I'll narrow it down just to finances because that's what really the gist of the matter is today.
Okay.
So it is important for us to budget for our finances. So that's really part of financial planning, to direct your money and say, this is how much income we have, this is what it should do. That's simply what budgeting is, directing our money. It's not, many of us think about a budget and we think about maybe the budget of a country, or we think about how tedious this process is because we know that the parliament starts talking about the budget way earlier, before June when, and before the minister comes to read the budget out for us. But budgeting is simply guiding your money. You look at your incomes and you look at your expenses, and then draw a line in between and say, how much do I have, how much am I going to spend?
But Maria, some people think when you talk about budgeting, it should be for the landed people who are sure about their money. But then we have households where we're not sure about how much is going to come in. So do I just budget for what I don't know? How does that work?
I think we want to complicate it so much, but we are all involved in one way or another in budgeting on a daily basis. Let me tell you how. When you leave home and leave money with your domestic assistant at home, you will give them a list to buy sugar, buy bread, and buy milk. That is budgeting. You've actually already guided them on how to spend that money.
So budgeting is basically just guiding your money where to go.
Exactly, because you don't just give them that money and tell them, go to the market and buy anything. Whether it's fish or chicken, whatever, you don't leave it up to them. So by telling them and instructing them on what to actually get, that is budgeting.
And by talking about what to get, it also brings in how much to actually give.
Exactly. I'm sure one day as you actually give them this money, you'll ask them, how much does this cost in the market?
Yes.
You know, already the element of budgeting is coming in.
Okay.
Yes.
So budgeting is an element of financial planning, and as homes we need to have a budget.
Yes.
Do you have a budget at home?
Yes, we do. We have a budget at our home. This is a very interesting story. My husband and I got married almost 13 years ago. And one of the things that we did while we were at honeymoon was actually draw our budget.
Did they tell you what people are supposed to do at honeymoon?
Over and above everything else that is done at the honeymoon, we also drew our budget.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, we have a budget, and we live by a budget. We operate a budget. We don't just have it written down for us to look at, but we also have an annual outing as a family to go and review our budget. So the things that we do in our offices, where companies have company retreats,
Yes.
and they are planning strategy meetings, as a family, as a Kyoyagala family, we also have a strategy meeting every year to actually review our budget and see how are we doing, how did we do against the budget, is it still realistic? We all know that last year the fuel prices shot up the roof,
Yes.
somewhere in the middle of the year, you know. Then there are ad hoc meetings where we have to now sit and say, okay,
Budget.
the fuel price has doubled. This is what we budgeted, but this is the reality. What is it that we need to reduce to actually fit into the fuel price? Yes.
You're making it seem like, okay, a bit complex. The budgeting, like we need to think about it that serious. Is it that big a deal that I should plan for my money or for my family money?
I have come to believe that it is a very important aspect. And this is why God has entrusted us with these resources, and He expects us to utilize them well. The Bible says that any man who is not able to provide for his relatives while still his own household is worse than an unbeliever. So many a times we do not know, first of all, what we have, and therefore we are unable to plan for our families, and we are unable to provide for them. But when we put the aspect of planning into the picture and think about how much is it that we actually have, how can we spend it, then we are able to do this. And this is not supposed to be complicated at all. Like I say, think about how much is it that you earn, or how much is it that comes into the family as income, and what are the things that you want to spend on. So the aspect of planning now comes in. What are the wants? What are the needs? What must you prioritize? Must you plan to go for an outing when children have not yet gone to school? Or should you plan for the outing at the time when you're constrained and struggling with school fees? You know, so that's the planning, that's the bit about planning. But does that mean you should never go for an outing? Because guess what, you're going to have to pay school fees for children for 18 years. Yes, so does that mean you will not actually an outing? That is where the planning comes in. So you're able to put aside a certain piece of money that you will actually use for the outing and plan for that outing.
Okay, so minus budgeting, what are the other components of financial planning as a family?
Thank you very much. The other components of financial planning include savings.
Okay.
Savings is a very, very good financial discipline because we save for a rainy day. You won't know when you will actually need that resource. COVID taught us better.
Oh yes, COVID did.
There's so much that went around during COVID that if you did not actually have a saving, you would have barely survived. You know, so many businesses that were actually closed down, and the people that didn't have a saving were not able to walk through that situation. They were waiting for Nabanja's 10,000 and President's special and the beans, you know, and that kind of thing. So saving is a very, very important aspect. I have come to learn that we do not spend and then save, but we save before we spend.
Because that was my actual next topic. Because there are people who will say, I have nothing to save. So you mean I should save before I start spending?
Yes.
Even if I have nothing to spend.
Saving is a culture, and that is a culture that we build. It's a habit that we can actually build. It doesn't matter how much you earn, you're actually in position to save something. And this is why I say this. For me as a believer, I have learned that every money that I get, 10% belongs to God. I entrust it with God and give back to God. Because one, that's what the Bible has told me to do. But it is also me honoring God. So that's the first thing. And then at least 10% of the money that we earn goes into savings.
because we know that we'll be able to survive off whatever is left after we have saved.
So you're trying to say that the way we know that of our income, all we have is 90%, and we're able to fit in the 90%, is the same way we should know that put away the savings and fit in the 80%.
Exactly. We all know that NSSF takes away 5% of our money, and it is money they are saving for us in retirement. But if you're living on the 90% now, how are you going to live on the 15% in retirement if you're not able to save? So if you're actually thinking about retirement and you'll be able to live on the 15%, I believe you can actually live on the 80% now, or the 75% or 70% after you've taken out your tithe and savings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have budgeting, we have saving. What else do we have to think about?
We need to think about investment. Why is it that we are actually saving? For us in our household, we are target savers. We save for a certain goal.
Okay.
So that's why we don't lock up our money into fixed incomes, because then it may not allow us to do what we want to do.
Okay.
So we save our money in areas that will, one, allow us to earn money off it. So we do a lot of unit trust savings, such that we are able to actually get our money when it has made money and then use it for whichever item that we are saving for. So the third aspect then becomes investment.
So if you're talking about investment, that means that when I'm saving, I need to know what I'm saving for, because that's the thing. If I just save and save and save, at what point do I just eat the money? So where does investment come in this whole thing?
Thank you very much. At some point, we should have our money work for us and make money for us, and that is where the aspect of investment comes in. You could invest in financial instruments like treasury bills and bonds. It could be unit trust, but you could also invest in a business where you're giving other people a source of livelihood. You're investing your money in either business that you've set up, or a joint venture, or the different kinds of business ideas that we can have. So that's really another aspect of financial planning. As a family, you need to sit down and agree, what is it that we can invest in? Where is it that we can actually put our money? Not everyone just going out and doing what they want, when they want, and then come back to tell the stories either when you've lost the money or when you have made so much money. You know, because if you make so much money and your spouse doesn't know how you're making the money, they might think you are a thief. You know, so it is important to talk about the investments as a family. So that's really the third aspect of financial planning.
So, thank you, Maria. As you say these things, I may understand them, but remember now we're talking about marriage, and we are two parties in this. So, at what point should we have these discussions? Maybe like you in honeymoon, or those who didn't do honeymoon and now we're 10 years. When can we start these conversations?
Interesting. These conversations are good to start having even before you actually get married. So the young men and women out there that are dating for marriage, these are good conversations to have. But is it too late to have these kind of conversations? No, it's not. And this is why, at whichever point the knowledge becomes accessible to you, then it is important to talk about them. Some of these things we are actually already doing, but doing informally.
Yeah.
If you choose to go out and talk through with your spouse and agree to go and invest in a chapati stall in your trading center, that is an investment that you've actually made as a family.
Okay.
But the question is, as a family, if that is the kind of investment that you've chosen, then you need to know how do you profit from it, because your investment is supposed to bring money back to you.
Yeah.
One of the things that for us we are driven by as a family, we are driven by investments that give source of livelihood to other people. For everything that we want to invest in, we think about how does it impact someone else, because that is a passion that we have to improve livelihoods of other people. So that's something that always drives us, and for us that is centered around the vision of our money. As we drive our money into investments, then we are thinking about who else is actually going to be a beneficiary of this.
Okay.
Yes.
So as we talk about that, now what comes to my mind is, I am thinking we need to invest, to save, all these things we talked about. And Mr. Mbowa is thinking, we live once, we only live once, for example. So that means as a couple would have different views. How do we come and bring them together to make sure that we move together? Because the end goal is to make the marriage work. So what happens in an instance where the couples have different views about this whole thing?
Interesting. The Bible says to two work together unless they have agreed. It is very, very important for us to agree. And I think the starting point is to think about the vision that you have for you as a family. If your vision is divergent, the way you want to go in life is totally different from the way Mr. Mbowa wants to go in life, then the chances that your money dreams and goals are going to match are also very slim. Okay. So I think the first and most important thing is, first of all, to talk about where do you see yourselves as a family? What is the kind of impact that you want to leave? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
But now here I'm saying my legacy, maybe I want something big, something. Oh, Mr. Mbowa is saying that most likely. And I'm saying me I want to eat, like I need to enjoy my money. How do we merge those two different views?
So once you talk about the views, if you're not married and you're dating and you're listening to me, and you talk about your dreams and visions and they are this divergent, I would suggest that you probably take a walk as far as the dreams can go, really. But if you're married, you're in the marriage, you're committed, then I am not saying walk away because the visions and the dreams are different. But I'm saying talk about this and see where do you come together. But what happens when we have different views of marriage? One, I would encourage us to take on financial literacy classes together to help us understand the views of money and finances together. This is why I could know something, but my spouse does not know that one thing.
Yes.
So if we went into a class together and had it from someone else, then we would be able to actually understand what does it mean to invest, what does it mean to save, because someone else could say, where are we saving? It's a zenko that was India. Life is short. Yeah. You only live once. That's what they say. You only live once. So some people are thinking about life that way.
Yes.
But then the Bible also says that it's a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Yeah. So if you're thinking about you living once, then have you thought about your children's children? What is the legacy that you're thinking about?
Yeah? So we need to stop thinking about ourselves.
Yes.
And think about the children's children.
Yes.
Interesting. So now that we have gotten our views together and we are working towards investing, saving, budgeting, there are very many things that we've had. There are very many misconceptions that we've had about money. For example, I keep telling people, a certain matron was telling us, do not put your money together with your husband, because men will take the money, and she has proof that the man had taken her money. So what are those other misconceptions around money, especially in marriage?
Quite interesting. Maybe before I go to the misconceptions, there's one other aspect about financial planning that I'd like to talk about, and it is retirement planning.
Oh, yes.
As we go through our earlier years in life, our most energetic years in life, we have got to think about the evening years of our lives. And the rate at which Ugandans live these days is actually much longer than what it used to be. So it's very likely that after 55, we're going to live quite long, because official retirement age, I think, for the country is 55 or 60. So we're going to live maybe another 20, 30 years. And the thing that our children would want the most is us being able to be financially sustainable and not depend on them, and not keep calling them every month for for that, for sugar, for soap, for medical needs. Then when you don't provide, the parents are annoyed. So we don't want to be those kind of parents. So it's therefore very, very important for us to plan for retirement. You know that in retirement you're less energetic. So the things that you're doing now, running around, doing this, doing that, are not the things that you'll actually do when you retire. So that's also a very important aspect.
We need
of
to plan
yes
for retirement.
yes
People will say, we're looking forward to it today, telling us about 30 years ahead.
it is
But
is
it's
quite
important,
important because
yeah.
maybe a lot of us are in employment now and our employers are giving us medical insurance. The day you leave that job, that is when you will understand what it means to pay medical bills.
Yeah.
So that is why planning for retirement is important. To think about where will you stay when you actually retire. Do you want to stay in the urban affluent area where it's so expensive, or do you want to move out to an area where it's actually less costly because you have nothing that is taking you to the middle of the city every day?
Okay.
So those are very, very important aspects to actually think about as we plan for our resources, because it really has a big impact on our life.
It actually has. And
Yeah.
the marrieds that are watching us, please let us plan for retirement, let us budget, let us save, and let us invest. Yes, as we continue this discussion with Maria, we're going into the misconceptions. What are those misconceptions about money in marriage?
Okay, I will talk about misconceptions, but I don't want to be crucified because our views of money vary from one person to another, and I don't sit here as an expert to talk about finances and money, but I sit here I also have views and opinions as a person. So this is what really I will share on this topic of misconceptions. One of the things that for me I've come to believe is a misconception about money is that the man's money is our money and the woman's money is her money.
Maria, what is his is ours. What is mine alone. And that is the misconception. I'm not encouraging it, but actually yes. But why is it a misconception? I mean, I thought men are supposed to take care of us.
I will go back to the vows that we make, and I will say vows because as a Christian I make vows in church. The vows that we make say, what is yours is mine. You know, they don't say that, they don't edit it for the man to say that what is his is ours, and then what is mine is mine. You know, so for me, I believe that is the starting area.
Okay.
That we make vows and we make a commitment on our wedding day that says that what is mine is yours. But then when it comes to money, we say, no, this is totally mine.
So if I'm giving you whatever is mine, that should also include mine.
Yes, you don't hide certain land titles. You don't say, everything that we'll acquire from today henceforth is ours, but whatever you found me with is mine. No.
But also, Maria, we are told that a woman should have their side property for a rainy day. Honestly, I've had these things as we do counseling, and someone tells you need a property for a rainy day. And as I've said, they have proof. Their rainy day came and they needed that property, and maybe it's what saved them. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think that the most important thing in a marriage is trust and transparency. In the absence of trust and transparency, we commit what, for me, I have come to term as financial infidelity.
Okay.
When we talk about infidelity, we think it's only the sexual infidelity. But for me, in my world, as a personal finance planner and someone who is passionate about personal financial management, I call that financial infidelity. Financial infidelity. Financial infidelity is the act of hiding money, hiding resources, hiding everything else from your spouse.
But is it hiding? If it is, we are clear that my money is mine. We're not hiding anything. Is that infidelity? If we both know that mine is mine, we shouldn't look there. But yours is what is taking care of the family.
Let me bring it up in this way. We all get excited when the IGG writes and releases a memo for public servants to declare their resources. But as a wife, you're out there, you're not declaring your resources to your husband. As a husband, you're there, you're not declaring your money to your wife. What we call that. But to get back to the point about should we or should we not have our own side property, side income, side property basically. I was stating that trust and transparency is the most important thing. For me, I've come to believe if you have trusted this man with your life, which is the most precious thing,
With your body.
hey, why not the money?
At that you're gonna
You
chill.
go to bed and sleep and close your eyes. And you don't worry that this man is going to stab you to death while you're sleeping. What about money?
You're gonna chilling that.
Moreover,
We're going to go for a break, and after that we're going to come back and Maria is going to tell us more about misconceptions. I know some of us have those misconceptions, and I'm hoping that as we go on with this conversation we're able to learn from that. But remember, these are our views. There's no expert in marriage. We are just giving our views and sharing our experiences. Don't go away. This is Phiona Mbowa, Ring Diaries on Church of Uganda TV. Welcome back. Before we went for the break, Maria Kyoyagala here was telling us about some of the misconceptions that we have as we handle money as marrieds. And she was telling us that we should not have outside properties, which I think sometimes they're important. But anyway, please continue telling us, apart from the my money, your money, and the part of property, what other misconceptions do you think are there?
the other misconception that has been bred around money and family finances is that a woman cannot share her money with her husband. That the woman's money is meant for herself. We have seen women that actually give loans to their husbands.
If I do my hair with my money, you have to. You need to pay me back.
You go for a manicure treat and then you come back home and tell the husband, nkubanja, nakozachi mkwano, nakoze mviri.
Yes, they're supposed to take care of us. I don't believe that. Anyway, so we should be able to take care of ourselves.
We should be able to have an agreed position on how we spend our family resources.
Okay.
That's what I have come to believe. We should be able to have an agreed position that this is what this person does. Because you see, the challenge with everyone keeping their money, the man being the sole provider for the home, is then a lot of assumptions coming.
Okay.
You assume that your partner has money even when they don't have.
So what you're trying to say is we should actually be able to disclose everyone how much they earn.
Yes. Disclosure is very, very important.
Is that even safe?
It is very safe. I speak from experience. I don't say this because I think it is written in some book somewhere that should be done, but it is something that we do in our home. Okay. When we get our increments, we send the letters from HR. I always send my letter to my husband, and he sees how much has actually increased. When he gets his, he sends it to me. When there is a bonus or anything that has been given, we share these letters. So that's the importance of disclosure, because then we do not assume that the other person has and yet they don't actually have.
And that brings me to the next question, Maria. You're going to just share experience how you manage money, because as we've said, we're not experts, we're just sharing experiences. How do you manage money in your home?
Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, for us, we drew a budget when we were away at our honeymoon.
Very strange.
Very, very strange. But very quickly after we came back from our honeymoon, we realized that we were having conflicts with money. And this is why we were requiring each other to account for every single little detail of the money that we were keeping.
Okay.
And that became challenging to my husband. And this is why, I'll tell you why. He would meet his hobbies that don't have transport on the street. And he gives them some money.
And now he has to come back and explain.
Yet he felt like, if I give my friend, should I really come back and tell? Or he will come back and say, my transport money is finished. And then I'll ask, where did the money go?
I gave you this amount.
It should be enough. Why is it finished? So that was one of the challenges that we faced. But how did we go around that? And to answer the question on how we manage money in our family, one, all our money comes into a joint pool. We do not keep joint accounts, but we pool our resources in a joint pool. So we have a budget where we have agreed on how much. First of all, the tithe is non-negotiable for us on every income that we have. Then we have, but our main source of income is our salaries, because we both work.
Okay.
So we earn it's salaries, it's money that we get from salaries. So we pull all our money into one pool, and then we disperse it based on what the expenses are. And we have drawn a budget that shows what we need to spend on what. So once that money goes out, we've also agreed on who the person that manages the finances in our home is. And how did we come to this? We did not use the skill and expertise. When I got married, I wasn't a CPA, I wasn't an ACCA. I was just a holder of a bachelor's degree in science, the same degree that my husband holds, by the way. So we did not choose this based on skill, but we based it on who is stronger at it and who is more passionate about the details. So that's how we
in every
decided.
marriage you should realize who is stronger.
Yes.
Because you could be the accountant, but it's a messed up one.
Exactly. I could be the accountant, but I'm the thrift spender. I am the one who finds everything and wants to buy it, you know. And my husband, who's not an accountant, is the one who thinks long term, big plans. Let's do this, let's do the other. You
So
know?
we look for who is stronger.
Yes.
And more interested in the detail.
Yes.
Now, I don't know. I want our viewers to really understand this. So what you're trying to mean is, if Isaac is bringing 500, Maria is also bringing 500. We put the 1 million together. Not maybe bringing it physically together in a joint account, but we know that our income is 1 million. Then we break it down according to our budget items.
Exactly.
Now, what happens when I find my friend that I have to give transport?
So what we also agree and what we do in our home is, on the money that we each earn, we've agreed on a percentage that we each keep in an area we call my money. And I put quotes because when we say my money, then we are going to go back to the discussion of my money, our money, your money. You know, so the aspect of my money for us is an aspect where it's the amount that we've agreed that each one of us will keep and not have to account for it. So it is at my discretion on how I spend it. If I go out with my girlfriends, I will use that money. If I buy a gift for my husband, I'll use that money. If I buy a gift for my friend, that is the money that I'll use.
So that is also a budget item.
Yes.
What money for my personal spending?
Yes.
Is this what some people also call allowances? Like you have your allowance, I have mine, and then we spend the balance.
I think so. I think that's what different people have a different name for it that they've coined for it. But yes, there is that allowance, and this is why this is important. You also want someone to be able to make certain personal decisions for their money
And on their own.
Because if you're going to buy your spouse a gift, but you have to come back to the pool and say, okay, this is money for gifts, we need to take away, I need to take away this much to buy the gift.
Spoil the element of surprise.
Exactly. So that's why we have that element on our budget. But we both know what the amounts are. So there are no surprises that, for you, you're keeping so much of that money, or, that kind of thing. The surprise element is the discretion for which the person chooses.
So you can use
money.
yours and I can keep mine for this month.
Exactly. And I am fond of doing that at home.
You keep it and pile it.
I keep it, I save it, and plan for a trip.
Interesting. So, as for you as a family, you put money together. And is this working for you?
We've been married 13 years, and every time we speak to people, or every time we've been to marriage seminars and marriage conferences, one of the areas we can comfortably say without doubt is we do not have money challenges. So yes, it is working for us because there is transparency for us. We have been very open about money together from the day one when we were earning very little to how much we are earning now. We have been very open with our money. And let me tell you, young people who are just planning to get married, you've just started to work, it's easier for you to start to open up now when it's still little. Because if you don't open up now and it grows, it becomes even harder. But if you've built a culture and a habit around opening up, it will become very easy. It will come naturally. So one of the things that I can comfortably say that this has worked for us, this is working for us, and I can say that without doubt because every year we sit down to talk about money. When we talk about money, we are not tensed up, we are not strained. When we agree on the different things on generosity, where to give and what to give, we are not tensed up, we are not stressed, we don't feel like, oh my God, yet again,
Yes.
So it is working for us.
It's working for. Okay, that is interesting. So, Maria, one of the things that we've seen is money is actually a big problem in marriage. Where do you think this problem comes from?
I think the problem, why money becomes a big problem, is because it has been abused or misused. And why do I say this? One, we need to know that we are only stewards of the money, that everything belongs to God.
Yes.
Therefore, we should be able to honor God with our money. If we do not honor God and honor money above God, then money is going to become a problem.
Okay.
Then one day one of us is going to tell the other, you're doing this because you think you have
more money.
Yes, because you have more money. So for me, I think that is one of the areas why money becomes a problem. Failure to honor God with our resources and not recognizing that we are actually simply stewards of that money.
That it's just a resource.
It's just a resource for us to actually utilize. But also, secondly, and this is something I've already alluded to, that lack of transparency, that secretive life around money that I coined today financial infidelity, is one of the other things that creates a problem. Because you know why that, and that is the biggest problem actually in many homes. Because then it creates assumptions. You assume that the other person
If I don't know how much you're earning, I assume whatever I ask for, you should give me.
Exactly. I will keep raising my demands, this, that, the other, the in-laws, the relatives, the who, this, that, because I don't know.
I presume you have that much money.
But also, some of those assumptions are created by ourselves. We create an image for our spouse that we have so much. There are people
Why
like
would
that.
you create an image for your spouse?
It probably happens before when people are still dating, but also there are certain people who live a life that is beyond their means. They create an image. They want to fit into a certain social class, social status.
That is for people outside, even between.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah,
it really have
does.
problems.
Yeah, it really does. So that's also one of the challenges that actually happens in
So
marriage.
because I put up that image, you presume he has
he must be having the money when he's borrowing left, right, and center in his office. But speaking about borrowing, the other biggest problem is debt. When you get married and you do not know the amount of debt that your spouse has.
So these are discussions we should ask before you marry me, by the how much
Thank you very much. Young people that are dating, this is an important discussion to have. You've got to ask your future wife, your future husband, how much debt they actually have. And it could be a salary loan, that is debt. You've got to declare it. It could be from a money lender that you borrowed to buy them an engagement ring. Or you borrowed to throw some engagement party. They need to be able to know. But because why is this important? You will go into the marriage and you think someone has money, but they're also having a lot of liabilities attached to their names. So therefore you're going to spend a lot of time trying to cover liabilities instead of actually investing and growing and getting developmental.
Wow.
So that is a very, very important aspect. And talking about debt also, is some people are in the habit of not actually paying their debts. The Bible says that, I think it's a wicked man borrows and does not pay. So if you're there and you have borrowed someone's money and you have not paid, the Bible calls you wicked. So therefore you should be able to pay back someone's money. But why is this very important? Some people look at Fiona, they borrow from Fiona and say, oh, Fiona is innocent. They choose not to pay Fiona's money.
Because she has money, she has enough.
But there's a reason why this was a loan and not a donation, So that is also one of the biggest challenges of money, debt. You borrow and your spouse does not know. Before you know, 5 years into the marriage, you actually borrow this money during the marriage. And that is where, if there's no transparency,
then shock.
Yes, the shock
comes. Come for the house and you didn't know that it was mortgaged. This is interesting.
Yeah.
So, as we continue to talk about this thing of financial planning, I want to look at the aspect of because for your situation, both of you are working and bringing money together. Now, what happens if it's only one spouse that is bringing in the money? How do we handle that?
Okay. So in scenarios where we have only one spouse that is bringing in the money, it goes back to the aspect of one, the vision. What is the vision that you have as a family?
Okay.
Because that will be the thing that will direct the money that comes in. And then to being able to recognize that it is our money, not my money.
It's our money.
Yes, yes, it is our money, not my
Even
money.
when it's one person bringing it.
Yes, it is our money. Because if you look at it as my money, then you think you should call all the shots around it. Then you
Because
think
I'm
the
bringing
spouse
in
that
money.
is not bringing in money should have no say. But if you have understood that it is our money, because the Bible says that the two shall become one.
Yes.
For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and go and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one. What does becoming one mean? You know,
And yet even in the vows we've said, whatever I have, I give to you.
Exactly. So once you have agreed and known that this is not my money, this is not Maria's money, this is not Isaac's money, but it is our money, then I believe you should be able to come around the idea of when one of you actually does not have an income. And it could be from the onset. You get married and you know that you have one source of income, but it could also happen in the middle somewhere along your marriage journey, and you find that one of you loses a job, you are both working, one of you loses a job. Or the other that was working at one point is not working and then another one is working. So it can happen. But the thing that will help you move forward with this and be able to live with it is one, to appreciate and understand that it is not my money, it is not your money, it is our money.
Yes.
It is our resources, and be able to plan for them together. If you are the kind of home where every time everyone was spending how they want it, they're keeping their money, everyone is keeping their money, then you're going to find misery in that home. Because the one who is not earning is going to have nothing to spend on. Then if it's the wife, you're going to have to bench your man for makeup money, for hair money,
nails.
for the nails, for, before you know, everyone will say, have you seen so and so? Well, what happened to her? Because now it has become evident the money is actually not there, So, but if you had an agreed position on the money, what happens is when that changes is you actually need to be able to still come back to that position and say, okay, we have been having two sources of income, we now have one.
Yes.
What do we need to adjust? And it takes me to the point of living within our means. When changes happen, we must embrace the fact that change has happened. If you have lost one source of income and you used to have two, you need to embrace the fact that you have temporarily lost this source of income.
So you need to adjust,
adjust
in the budget.
Exactly. You cannot spend what you used to spend when you think when you had so much money and when you don't have. Some of us think that my current house where I rent should be a reflection of where I want to be. So your dream house. Yes. So you tell yourself you cannot leave a house of 1.5 million now that you have lost one of the incomes to go to a house of 600,000. Or you cannot move from Nigeria to Nansana. I, by the way, stay in Nansana. My parents stay in Nansana, so really, I have no ill motive about Nansana. When I talk about Nansana, I live along on the boundary of Nansana. It is on the other side of Nansana, but I pass through Nansana every day. So I'm not saying anything bad about Nansana when I say Nansana.
Because the things have changed, I should be able to shift from Nigeria and come to Nansana. But how will people see that? Anyway, yes, I think it's actually important that we are able to live within our means. And I think it brings us back to the point of being open. Because we've seen spouses who keep going to work even when they've lost their jobs, just to keep up appearances. So as we continue along this path, I think there's something, if we, for example, we've talked about someone losing a job. What happens in the instance that the husband has been taking care of everything and he loses his job? And we both work, because we've seen these instances. We both work, but the husband takes care of everything. And God forbid, here we are, and he loses his job. I don't know if you've come to seen or heard of situations like that, and how best do people adjust in such a situation?
Thank you, Fiona. It's a very difficult situation. I have not lived in it, but I have known people that have actually lived with that situation. And one, I think the most important thing is to recognize the change that has happened. As wives, the Bible tells us to submit to our husbands and commands the husbands to actually love their wives. But one of the most important things in that situation, I believe that transition is smoother and better if there has been honesty and openness from the very beginning. Men hate being vulnerable. They hate being in a position of lack. And therefore, as our wives, we need to be able to support them. As a wife, you need to be able to support your husband even in a situation like that. If you're going to a supermarket together and you're picking the bills, you're using your card, give him the card to make the payment. It is as simple as that, because if that is the thing that will make him feel like he's been able to do it, then do it.
Yes.
Do not open up to the children or let the children know that you are the one that is settling the bills, in the home.
Yes.
Like, if there are things that he has been doing and he's the one that is directly in charge, allow him to continue to be in charge, even when the money is coming from you.
I can actually give him the money to go and pay school fees.
Exactly. Because that will be able to protect his ego. That will be able to protect him as a man, to not feel like they're inadequate. Because I think every man's greatest fear is not being able to provide for their family.
Yes.
And therefore they'll do everything and anything to make sure they're in position to provide.
Yes.
But if you're the kind of wife that will rub it in, that you're the one who has bought this, go aguze nyama, go aguze nkoko, go akoze buli kimu, then you're going to create animosity in the home.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have come to believe that we need to be able to recognize, first of all, that the man is the head of the home. It is his authority. He follows Christ as we follow him.
So regardless of how much I earn, he's the head and I should respect them.
Yes.
Oh, interesting conversation. And as we plan to wind up, I want you to just, people who are intending to get married, because as I've said, some of us are already broken. But for those who are intending to get married, or those, I believe there's always time to start. What advice would you give to our viewers about financial planning in marriage?
Thank you very much, Fiona. I don't think it's too late, even for you that has been married so many years and you've never thought about financial planning. I think, one, it is important for us to recognize the position that we are in. For those of us that are already married, and know that this is the situation that we have. This is not working for us, or it could be better. We have thought for the last 10 years that it is actually working for us, but we think it could be better. So seek as much knowledge and support that you can, and the both of you, such that you can be able to improve each other and improve how you actually manage your resources. I think that would be very, very important. That's a good aspect. But for those young men and women out there that are not yet married, I think the most important thing is for you to talk about the things of money. When you're dating, when you're planning for your marriage, talk about the issues of money. If you have a wedding budget that is, say, 100 million, you need to sit down and agree on where is this 100 million going to come from. Do not just sit there with your budget and just look at each other and think one of you is going to fund it, or think you're going to get money from your friends. Yes. No. If you have a 100 million budget, how much as the intending couple, as a pair, can you actually sponsor into that on that budget? And then where do you expect to get the rest of the money from? If you do not talk about these things, then you're going to go into the marriage with, one, a lot of assumptions. Then you're going to think through it and you're going to ask yourselves, where did we actually get this money from? Then people are going to borrow left, right, and center. Then you set your marriage on a debt. So I think it's important to talk about, the best time actually to talk about this is when you're planning. Yes. As you plan for your money, where is it coming from? When Isaac and I were going to get married, the only time we have had a joint account was actually before we got married. We've ever had a joint account because we were saving money into that account for our wedding. And before we paid for anything for the wedding, we got money off and paid for our honeymoon.
Why it's
So-
not safe to trust that.
So the first thing that we thought was very important for us on that wedding day was our honeymoon.
When
So
we are
got
waiting
money-
for food for your planning.
So it is important to talk about every detail. Ask your spouse how much debt they have. If you've been married 10 years and you still have not been having this kind of transparency, it's okay to sit down with your spouse and ask them how much debt they have, and then agree on a repayment plan. Your spouse could be having debts that he has not paid, that he's not thinking about paying, or she has not paid and she's not thinking about paying, and then before you know, one day people will come to your home and they want to take property because of that. So it's important to actually talk about it and agree on what are the next steps. If it is debt, have a repayment plan, and then agree on when should we borrow, who should borrow, should we stop borrowing until we have cleared this debt. So I think for me the most important thing is to talk and talk and talk about this money issue. Don't be afraid to talk about money. People that are dating, it is important for you to know how much your spouse earns. Where does their money come from?
Not just enjoying it.
You don't want to get married to a mfere who does not actually work, and you think the man works because he has
He has the
presented
money.
himself in a certain way. So it is very, very important that we actually talk about it.
Oh wow, thank you very much, Maria. Thank you for the time and for that interesting conversation. And for our viewers, if you've not started planning for your finances with your spouse, please start today. And as you've heard from Maria, let us not think that money should be the man's game, that we should wait for them to take care of everything about us. Go out and do something, and for a change, let's also take care of the men, and we change the narrative. But as we've said, financial planning is very important to us as couples. We need to plan, and plan. Talk about debt, talk about investment, talk about saving, talk about everything to do with money, because it's your money. Remember, you said what is yours is what I have, I give to you, and the man also said the same. So let us be open about these things for our marriages to work. Thank you very much for watching with me, Phiona Mbowa, here at Church of Uganda Family TV, Ring Diaries.